Call this meeting to order. We'll do the flag pledge, led by our sheriff.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome. Anybody has a cell phone, please silence it or shut it off. Is there anybody interested in a motion for approving the agenda?
Move it.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Consent agenda,
Move the consent agenda.
Second.
motion and a second. Any discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Any public appearances today? Guess not. Public Works. Morning, Seth.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board and staff. One item from Public Works this morning, and that is to consider the 2020 MnDOT TED application resolution. About midsummer, MnDOT sent out a solicitation for applications for the 2020 Transportation Economic Development Program, which we refer to as TED, and this was a special Greater Minnesota solicitation. There's up to $1.85 million available for local governments in Greater Minnesota to apply for that can be used for transportation infrastructure projects on state highways that support economic development. And the key thing here is this money can only be used on the state highway system. So to be eligible, the first step was to submit an expression of interest form by August 7th. The infrastructure project that I submitted, the expression of interest form was for our local cost participation in the interchanges that will be built at County Roads 12, 24, and 37 as part of the Trunk Highway 14 4-lane expansion project. So far, Nicollet County's total local commitment for those interchanges is approximately $3.5 million. So I had requested the full $1.85 million in those available TED funds. So expression of interest form went in. Whatever local government submits those in whatever MnDOT district they reside in, then the district meets with the applicant, they review the project that you're submitting to see if it's going to be a viable candidate project, and then if it looks that way, then you move on to the next phase, which the next phase is to have the local government agency pass a resolution supporting the TED application. So in your packet is a resolution for the board's consideration in supporting an application for $1.85 million in TED funds for the interchange project.
Yes, Jack.
I think this is so important. I'd like you to make the motion. I'll second it.
I will make the motion. I so move.
I have a question. So if we get to this point, our commitment will be in less than $2 million from county funds?
Yeah, if our commitment right now for those two interchanges is about $3.5 million. If we would get the full $1.85 million in TED funds, that would leave a balance of $1,650,000 for the county to
Just
contribute.
So I'm clear, have we established exactly where those funds will come from, Ryan, or you?
No, Mr. Chair, we talked briefly about it during our budget discussions this year. But what the plan will be is in 2021, as we go through that, probably next summer, we'll have further discussion. But we have several options, including possibly sales tax money, wheelage tax, regular reserves, bond funds, that type of thing.
And Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I could. We learned about the TIFIA business that's coming through the state, correct? Or the application for that. All those things have to fall into place for this $85 million project to become reality someday, correct?
Yep. Correct.
I just want to add that Jack has been on that partnership committee for how many years?
A number of years, and,
And Marie's been on Highway 14 committees too, and I have, since I've been here.
And it affects all of us.
Yes.
As we know, certainly.
and our people. More discussion?
Call the question.
Okay. Do we need a roll
Yep.
call?
Resolution.
Okay,
Lipke,
yes,
Kolar,
Yes,
Morrow,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Journal. Yes.
thank you, approved.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
Seth, you have another one?
I don't have any other more official items on the agenda, but I can talk about construction projects.
Sure.
and
Mr.
where
Chair,
we're at.
before we start that, I'd like to acknowledge the email that you forwarded from our district engineer complimenting you and your staff on the work that you have done and have been a real asset in making a lot of transitions and things happen that maybe wouldn't have without your input. And so personally, I want to thank you, but I think I can speak for the board, is we're very proud of the work you do and are thankful that you're there and making that happen for us, so, and for our constituency. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Very well said. Oh, yes, you're gonna give us a report on progress?
Yeah, I'll give a report on construction progress. I just want to mention one other thing about the TED grant. 1.85 million isn't a ton of money to be distributed across the entire greater Minnesota. And I know that even in District 7, there was probably 4 to 6 other grant applications probably coming in for this money. So it'll be interesting to see if our project can.
In their
Rank
history
high
though,
enough.
does this ultimately get chopped up after all the applications are made, or what's the history of this been?
You know, this is a little, typically the TED program, it's for everybody, so the metro counties, you know, metro cities, everybody is competing for that pot of money, and I know that they try to distribute some across the state. This is a
money's-
unique solicitation, so I'm not quite sure what their project or their funding level goal per project may be on this.
Okay.
All right, construction update. County Road 12 is moving along. It's nice to have warm, dry weather for that project. Stage 1 fill in the flooded area is done, so we have lots of crushed rock in for that initial fill that was put in. We're about 1 foot above the existing water line right now, and at this point, we are now waiting to see how this first stage of fill settles and compresses, and our consultant Braun Intertech will be monitoring that data that's coming from the piezometers and settlement plates, and will watch that and give us a recommendation when we can start with the next phase of fill placement, which the next phase will be an additional 3 feet of material will go on top of what's already in there.
3 feet of 4-inch rock, or?
It'll be, the next stage will be 2 feet of about 1.5 inches crushed, clean rock. Then over that 2 feet, they'll put a separation fabric, and then a select granular backfill, that's what we call it, a sand material. 1 foot of that material will be placed on top of the 2 feet of crushed rock. That'll be the next stage of fill, and then we'll be in another waiting period to see how that settlement goes. And then
And that sand can be driven on?
the sand can be driven on. That type of sand that they're bringing in is going to be real clean, and so if it's driven on a lot, it'll start to move and displace. So it's not great to have lots of traffic on it, but you could drive. They will be driving trucks over it. Yeah. They have gotten the intersection of 12 and 21 grading completed with gravel on the intersection. Of course, some of the ditches and topsoil have been a little bit wet, and so they've been holding off on completely finishing that and seeding it, but we will work on that yet this fall. They are progressing from the intersection going south towards Kister Slough. Typical rural grading project, taking the old bituminous off, aggregate base, doing a subcut, and then conditioning those soils and repacking in there. It takes time to do that. completion date on that phase is mid to late November of this year. County Road 12, County Road 21 bridge project. The contractor came in last week, milled the deck and placed the first lane of the low slump concrete overlay. Of course, you got to have some cure time on that first lane before they can come back, set on it, and pave the other lane. They were going to do that probably midday today. The stainers are coming in to do the form liner that we put on the abutments and the rails. They're going to be coloring that. They started yesterday, probably finish that up today. Once that's done, then Mathewitz will probably be able to come in and finish the grading work, grade out the slopes, put the remaining riprap in. So we're getting closer to that project completing, but it'll probably be several weeks yet before we're done with that. County Road 14 slope fix. That project officially got going yesterday. They were closing the road, putting up the detour. They will be starting guardrail removal either today or tomorrow, and also the clearing and grubbing, the removal of the trees on that slope this week. After that's done, I imagine Mathewitz will be coming in to start removing the pavement and starting the massive hillside excavation in anticipation of building the reinforced soil slope. That project, of course, will go late into the fall. The project's big enough now that it will not be completed this fall. The road will be closed over the winter, and we'll finish next year.
Seth, what are they doing with the rock they don't need there from the temporary fix?
Some of the rock taken out that was placed as part of the temporary fix will be put back in. There's a stream crossing that crosses 14. There's a channel between 14 and 21, and then it crosses 21 again. That channel needs to be re-rip-wrapped. Flooding had washed away smaller riprap in previous storm events, so we're going to reline that with some of that riprap that we take out of that temporary fix. The remaining riprap will be stockpiled down by the boat landing off of County Road 21. That material we will reuse in the temporary fixes on 21 to get 21 back open to 2 lanes for this winter. And speaking about 21, I have a draft set of temporary stabilization plans that I reviewed and sent back to SRF with some comments that they need to incorporate, but what we're hoping for is to do that temporary remediation project probably mid-November and get it done probably by December, so 21 is open for 21. Both lanes are open for the winter while we develop the permanent remediation plans that will hopefully do that project sometime next year.
Any questions for Seth?
Seth, I maybe missed it, but on the bridge, did we ever have to replace rebar from when it?
On the deck?
On the deck?
No, we were fortunate enough that the rebar did not displace so much that we had to take more of the deck out and cut the rebar and splice new ones in. We were able to save that entire rebar mat, which was a good thing.
Got lucky there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, Seth. Ryan, you have some things for us?
Yeah, a couple items today, Mr. Chair. The first one is a resolution to approve CARES Act funding to purchase a mobile public health trailer and related equipment. As the county board is aware, that we received $4.1 million of federal CARES Act funding to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. Under the U.S. Treasury guidelines for spending these funds, guidelines include establishing temporary public medical facilities and other measures to increase COVID-19 treatment capacity and cost of providing COVID testing, including serological testing, emergency medical response expenses, and emergency medical transportation, as well as expenses for public safety measures undertaken in response to COVID-19. Nicollet County encompasses 467 square miles, which creates a need to have a climate-controlled and mobile public health trailer in order to respond to the pandemic, to provide testing, vaccinations, and protective supplies and other COVID-19 response. In addition, this trailer would also be available in the future for sheriff's response to emergencies. And as we've talked briefly here, we may be doing curbside voting later in October and early November this year, and potentially this unit would be available for that as well. So I would, in your packet, there's a resolution authorizing the expenditure of purchasing a trailer. The county sheriff and emergency manager have been looking at units to purchase and have found one. Essentially, it's a 39-foot travel trailer that will be modified into a public health and emergency management incident command trailer for use anywhere in the county. And then in addition, they'll be providing or looking at purchasing equipment that would go in there as well. So I would recommend approval of the resolution as presented.
Mr. Chair, I move the resolution.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just a quick question.
Yes.
Ryan, when do you expect it could be online?
I'll look at the sheriff and emergency manager, but I think the plan is if the board approves this today, they're gonna make the purchase essentially today, and we could have it real soon. It's got two, what I'll call sleeping areas in it, and they're gonna be modified into offices for field purposes. But I think we could definitely have it available within a couple weeks, I would say.
By the end of next week, it'll be available for pickup.
Okay.
And by the getting rid of the bedrooms, nobody will want to use it for a hunting excursion, right, Ryan?
Right. It actually works out. The floor plan works very well for emergency purposes. It's got two bathrooms, one interior and then one you use from the exterior, and so you can create that separation. It's also got two refrigerators, so we can hold vaccines in there. It's got an outdoor shower, so if we have a contamination response in the future, the sheriff's office can use that as well. So it actually works very well for what we're gonna be using it for, or hopefully not using it, but we have it available.
Marie, you got a question?
Where are you gonna store this thing at 39 feet when you're not using it?
Our emergency manager has a contact with the Ag Society and Fair Board, and I believe it plans to store it out there at the
Sounds good.
fairgrounds.
Jack, you had a question?
I've never purchased one of these. What, is this self-propelled, or do you pull it?
It's a pull behind.
Pull behind? So, okay. My question was same that Marie was asking. Will it become primary use after, if COVID ever ends, of law enforcement?
I think the plan is it'll be a shared unit between public health and law enforcement. We do have a unit right now. It's quite old. It's a 2005 model that we purchased from the federal government after Hurricane Katrina, but it's showing its age and really doesn't have an ideal floor plan for what we need it for. And this floor plan is going to allow us to use it for both public health response and emergency management response.
So,
Yes,
and again,
Jack.
I don't know if you need, what kind of vehicle power do you need to tow this?
Big pickup.
A half-ton pickup will pull it,
Really?
which we have available in the sheriff's office. Our emergency manager has a Tahoe that will pull it. The facility maintenance department has all 3/4 ton pickups that if we need to use that, we can as well. We're also looking at the possibility of upgrading one of the pickups in the sheriff's office. We've got some extra funds this year from resale of vehicles, upgrading one of the vehicles from a half-ton to a 3/4 ton just to have that in the fleet. Then we would have that available, so.
Thank you.
But a half-ton will pull it.
Pulling it isn't always the issue, Jack, it's stopping it.
Stop it.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
probably got
I'm,
brakes.
I'm sure it's got electronic brake systems, so that helps, but yeah, it's,
Got some weight behind it.
I wouldn't wanna pull it across the country with a half-ton
No.
pickup, but
No, we could
you
pull it
could pull
across
it
the
to
county if
Ridgely
we had to,
Township
yeah.
with no problem.
And if we drive 45 miles an hour, that's fine.
Mhm.
More questions? Terry?
Call the question.
This was a resolution.
Yep.
Call the roll, please.
Kemp,
Yes.
Morrow.
Yes.
Lippke.
Yes,
Drennel,
Yes.
Kohler.
passes. Thank you. Okay,
Ne-
Ryan?
Next item is, to request approval of the 2021 preliminary property tax levy and then setting the 2021 levy and budget public comment meeting. I've attached in your packets a resolution that requests, setting the preliminary levy, which we have to do by September 30th, at $23,782,117, which equates to a 2.99% levy increase. The resolution also sets Thursday, December 3rd, 2020 at 6:30 PM at the Nicollet County Boardroom as the 2021 tax levy and budget public comment meeting. I have attached some information that was in the budget presentation that we did last month. I will go through some of this briefly. The first page shows the preliminary levy as compared to 2020. It shows a $690,000 levy increase. That number is almost entirely all wages and benefits, which as a county government, we are heavy in human capital because of all the services we provide. So that always is our largest expense. We did make some cuts or postponements to capital projects. We were slated to do a health and human service remodel in North Mankato and potentially a remodel in the property and public service department. That was scheduled in our capital improvements plan. As of now, those aren't in the budget for 2021, as I would recommend we wait and see what the impact of the pandemic and the overall economy and the legislative session is next spring before potentially moving forward with those. We also made a cut in public works. We eliminated seal coating next year. That was in response to we're likely going to be receiving less state aid for municipal state aid, or excuse me, state aid for maintenance. That state aid that we receive for maintenance is funded with gas tax, and due to the fact that people have been driving less in 2020, there's less gas tax generated, so we're anticipating a reduction in that. What we did is, like I said, we countered by removing all the expenses of seal coating for 1 year. Seth is comfortable doing that mainly because we've kept up with seal coating and we've converted a lot of roads over to concrete over the years, so there's less need for seal coating every year. So those are a few of the things that we've done to keep the levy at a manageable rate. The next page shows the impact of a 2.99% levy increase. I will note on the top of the page it shows that our overall taxable market value decreased by about 173 million. That's a significant decrease, and the reason for that is our ag land values went down 17%. So typically we have increases in our market value, but with that shift in the ag values, that's created a significant increase on our overall value and our tax rate. With a 2.99% tax levy increase, the examples that we have listed here shows that if you have a house valued at $150,000 with no value increase, your county tax will go up $38. If you have a house valued at $150,000 with a 5% increase, your county tax would go up $86. Commercial or industrial property with a 6% increase valued at $500,000 would go up $628. In rural areas, if you have a house, garage, and 1 acre, which is how farmsteads are valued on the residential side, house, garage, and 1 acre with a 10% value increase would see a $133 increase. But on the ag side, as I mentioned, values went down 17%. So even with a 2.99% tax levy increase, ag land, in this example shows if you had 80 acres of tillable homestead, your taxes on the county side would go down $191. So there's gonna be a shift from ag land paying taxes to residential. The next page illustrates that even more. Under the proposed levy increase, 55% of the taxes would be paid by residential, 28% by ag, 15% by commercial industrial, and 2% utilities. Compared to 2020, the shift that occurred, ag land in 2020 is paying 32% of the tax levy, so there was a 4% decrease in the overall levy of what they're paying, and that flipped over to residential. Residential this year is at 51%, that's gonna go to 55%.
Ryan, are other area counties showing a similar valuation?
I can report on that.
Okay.
Ryan, you probably have that information that I shared from we just did an informal survey of 7 area counties around Minnesota Valley Council last night, Mr. Chair. And 3.5% is the average proposed going forward on
Okay.
this date for those 8 surrounding counties.
Okay.
I
But I meant the shift in agriculture and business and residential.
Yeah, I don't have that information.
Probably just coming out
17% is a significant decrease. That's the largest I've seen here. And that doesn't always line up year to year with neighboring counties. It as we know, depends on sales. And some counties may see it a year ahead of us. Some counties may see it a year after us. But that seems to be the trend, obviously with commodity prices and that type of thing. The sale prices has leveled off. About 6 or 7 years ago, when ag land was $10,000 or $11,000 an acre or more, and we were still coming out of a housing recession, ag was paying, I believe, in the 40% range overall. So those shifts occur over time.
Any other questions for Ryan? Okay. Keep going then, Ryan.
That's all I really have. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I recommend approval of the attached resolution.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the resolution.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just looking to the committee on the budget, yourself and Commissioner Morrow.
Yes.
Anything that you'd like to add from your discussions on what department heads were putting forth and where you see this going, please?
I think, what we added made sense. 3 positions, wasn't it?
Right, we had 2 dispatcher, or a dispatcher position, and may have been need for even more, but given some personnel who are serving our country right now and other issues, it seemed like the staff additions were minimal and necessary. And as Ryan said, the great bulk of this budget is in people.
Health
And
insurance.
I think as we look at, Jack, especially now, the great need for county services in public health and public safety and all the work that Seth and his team are doing to help repair and improve our roads and other public works. I came away thinking everyone was conservative in their requests, recognizing that not only does the county have expenses, but also the folks who live in Nicollet County are also experiencing challenges at this time.
I appreciate that feedback, and remembering back to the last recession of 2008 and 2009, and counties were forced in many cases to call for 0% increase, and then it took time to build that back up, and that hurt taxpayers probably more than if there would have been a steady
Yeah.
flow to keep those services coming. Some of our neighboring counties did that recently in the last couple of years. So I am in favor of this, even though we may be in worse economic shape than, as this thing turns out, than 2009 when it comes down to it.
Well, one thing I might say, and I agree with you on that. So as you were sitting here and I was sitting in St. Paul in that time period, we were looking to cut billions and billions from the budget. And the nice thing that I commend the four of you is the county has a budget, has reserves and funds available to see through times like this. And Ryan, that's a compliment to you and to Heather and Jamie and your teams as well. You know, this is an increase. I agree with you. I think the gradual approach is better than trying to do zero and then all of a sudden increase it. But it's a compliment to all of you that this county is in a position where we can weather this storm without dramatic impacts that would deeply affect the health, safety, and welfare of Nicollet County residents.
And I just hope we don't get penalized for having reserves of a good number.
Stayed within the target, so.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. Thank you for adding that to the discussion.
Anything else? Well, call to roll.
Kemp?
Yes.
Morrow?
Yes.
Lipke?
Yes.
Greno? Yes. Kohler?
Yes.
Passes. Thank you. Oh, Chair's report. Okay, sat through 3 sessions with AMC, General Government, Extension meeting, and the workshop, the rest of you. Terry?
I forgot about extension, so I got just was adding that to my notes. So AQUA, the Adult Chemical Welfare Committee, those opening sessions for AMC, and then 3 AMC Health and Human Services meetings. I want to come back to that in a moment. The workshop, planning and zoning, public health, and extension. I just want to ask you, do you all get the slide deck from the Nicollet County Public Health meetings with that show the different, like how many people have contracted and that you're all getting? Okay, great, because we've talked a great deal about roads and like I thought we should also just keep an eye on those numbers as well.
Danny?
Let's see, from our last work session, I've had, gotta start my list here, I'm sorry, I didn't have it fully in paper. Finance Committee for for the Statewide Emergency Communications Board, or the AMC conference, attendance, and the 3 subcommittees I serve on public safety, multi-county HRA, and I just want to make sure I have everything touched on. Yep, I do.
3?
I attended virtually the city chamber gig, where Ryan presented on our business assistance grants. They didn't have a really good turnout, but people were there. That same afternoon, I was on a conference call with Senator Klobuchar with Region 9 regarding the revolving loan funds. We didn't talk about those, but we talked about everything else. I sat through 2 AMC Natural Resources and Environmental committee meetings, board workshop, Greater Mankato Grove's annual meeting, Region 9 revolving loan fund meeting. I also sat through Baker Tilly's presentation on our business assistance grants. I worked last Friday at the Food Access Network's food distribution or produce distribution.
Can I interrupt? Just what was your take on how well our contractor did on those on that training?
It was okay. It's a lot of detail.
Sure.
And it's a lot of work, and as I was saying before the meeting, we're getting ready to submit one this afternoon, and our uploads are in excess of 100 pages. So that, to me, feels cumbersome.
Yes.
Because we had to accumulate all that, copy all that, scan all of that, and hope it uploads. It just seems really, really cumbersome.
Yeah, it's, because it's federal money and there's federal requirements, there's 2 approaches you can take. You can not require documentation now and try to track it down later if audited. I was hesitant to do that because I know what that would be like, so I've we set up the application process to require the documentation up front. Hopefully, there's gonna be a few cases where there's a lot of downloads. We did try to make it easier by providing an Excel spreadsheet where they could put all expenses under $250, they could just list them.
That number should have been 1,000.
Yeah,
That would have saved, I mean, not to say that $250 isn't a lot of money, but when it comes to things like this, $250 isn't a lot of money. That's kind of our beef with this at this point.
yeah, and so it's certainly not gonna be perfect, but we are getting daily inquiries from businesses. There seems to be interest. I don't know what the tally is so far of applications started or submitted, but there's definitely interest out there.
Does it seem to be countywide, or have we got pockets?
It's countywide.
Good.
Yep.
That was our goal.
We've gotten inquiries from the smaller towns and North Mankato and St. Peter.
Marie, something to add, or Jack?
Thank you. Going back to what Terry Morrow had said, Ryan, before I get to my business meetings, have we had any reports of Nicollet County employees becoming ill with the COVID?
We can't obviously discuss that because it would be HIPAA. But I can just say that we have not been immune to COVID-19.
Thank you. September 10th, TDS meeting, I attended the area transportation planning meeting. Seth Greenwood was also part of that. Like others, the AMC fall meetings or transportation. Two of those, workshop, the RITA, GMG meetings, TDS, and Minnesota Valley Action Council. Thank you.
Jack, is Minnesota Valley Action Council getting desperate for funds, or?
No, Mr. Chair, they're feeling the bumps just like everybody
Okay.
else, but the funds continue to come from the
Okay.
federal government, at least for now.
Okay.
With the Head Start program, they're seeing fewer kids going to the locations to get their Head Start services.
Right.
But yet, that gives them time to adjust so that they can make those places more safer, John.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Jack. All right. Got any meetings and conferences to talk about, Ryan, or?
No, so with everybody received the email that the annual conference has been switched to I believe a one day or one afternoon virtual session. So information will come out on that.
And that may change based on, they just did it, so it may take a different look yet again.
Well,
Right.
hopefully, I'm sorry to interrupt, hopefully, if it's not going to happen, those retiring commissioners who would be honored at a dinner this December, I hope that AMC would remember to call them back next year.
I'm sure they will.
The Tom Warnkas of the world and
Yep.
other people, so.
Yeah, and I'm assuming we'll still have a virtual district meeting. I don't have
Yep,
that
I think
date.
that's
It's
in the
typically in
plan.
November, so a lot of times we usually do that recognition there
Yes,
as well.
yes.
Okay.
I will note on the meeting list, so we do have a scheduled October 5th planning and zoning legal training for the board. We have it listed here, so you can attend here. That it is also available by Zoom as well. So however you would prefer to attend that. Scott Anderson is doing the training. Some of you have seen his presentations before, and he's very engaging for an attorney. Sorry, Commissioner, and County Attorney, Senator Fisher, but I know he's entertaining as far as learning about planning and zoning legal issues. So
What time is that?
12:30 to 4:30.
Thank you.
we have it listed at 12 noon on the
Yeah.
schedule, but is that what it is? Is 12:30 to?
Mandy said last night 12:30.
Okay.
She
Okay.
sent something out, didn't she? Yeah.
We've had two different times.
Right.
I hope she sends it again.
Well, eventually you'll get the link for Zoom, so you can.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think there was a Zoom link on the.
There was.
It's not open right now.
And do we have an idea, Ryan, how many people are attending that?
my understanding is it's the Planning and Zoning Commission and the county board, correct? Yep.
And so I'd encourage you to make every effort to attend, cause he's gonna talk about just process and making findings and those things that are coming up more and more frequently for our meetings.
I was just thinking about social distancing. That's what I was asking.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Mhm.
Yeah, I would recommend
I think
Zoom.
we can zoom
if-
in, I mean,
Yeah, that's fine.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Nothing new have to do with that then?
No.
Okay. Per diems,
Move it.
second.
motion and a second, discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Anybody wanna adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes. We are adjourned. Ryan, any reason we can't start the drainage?
Yeah, you've got a public hearing piece.
Okay,
I think.
Thought I'd ask.
Don't we? Well, I don't think it's
So-
gonna take us time to work around the rest of the agenda, so.
take a 15-minute break. Call the Drainage Authority meeting to order. Consent agenda,
Move the consent agenda.
Second?
motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Passes. Okay, continued public hearing for ditch cleaning 48A.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. If you recall, this is a continued public hearing for County Ditch 48A, and that original hearing was on August 25th, and that was regarding the cleaning of that ditch. And then during that hearing, there was discussion about the reestablishment of the ditch records for that ditch system. Because there's a lack of as-built plans and any changes that have been done to that system since the original built on that. So it'd be my recommendation to close this public hearing and move on with the reestablishment of the ditch records for County Ditch 48A. But prior to closing this hearing, I would recommend that you open it up if there's anybody here that would like to have some public comment on that.
Okay. Anyone want to make public
I'll
comment?
move it. To open it up.
Oh, okay. Motion and second, or motion to move it, open it up, is that
I
necessary?
don't think we
I don't
need
think
to.
it's
No.
necessary.
It's a
It's still
continuation. You
continued
should
hearing.
be
Yeah,
able
it's
to know.
continuation, so we're open for public comment. Please state your name, address, and get your 3 minutes.
Take my 3 minutes. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Gene Dorn, Nicollet, Minnesota. And I had spoke last time, and then I did get a overview of the ditch that we could look at a little better. Abby, do we want to bring that up then? Yes, it's up. Okay, let's zoom in on it.
Jim, what's your address?
42113 451st Avenue.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
It's Gene, Jack.
I'm sorry. I can't hear anymore.
If we can come down, Abby, and start from the top, bring it down. Now zoom it in some. Abby, are you on the first link? I had Nate probably go to the second one. If we can go to the first link?
I think that was the first link we had.
Oh, was it? Okay, we should be able to see that culvert if we keep.
That's down to the south.
Oh, right here, let's bring it in a little more. We can see here, let's bring it down a little bit. This is the culvert that's put in, and that is supposed to be below ground. The frost each year is pushing that up. So far, with the high water, it has not done much to slow it up, but it has to be eventually. When I talked to DNR, I met with them in Nicollet and over at New Ulm. First, they wanted to lower it because they thought they might need to get over here. But since the lake is so high and our water table's so high, they also admitted that they probably won't be able to go there, but they said they would either put a bridge across it or lower that culvert. Well, I think you can see that culvert would have to be replaced because it is getting rusty. I believe that's close to a 48-inch culvert. Okay, let's just go back a little bit. We'll start from the top of the lake.
That's a steel culvert then?
That is a steel culvert, yes. And this will be coming up on Duck Lake, and we're probably getting out of what the drone flew. So this is Duck Lake, and this back in the, what was it, 88 when it got so dry, there was a cat out here, and he did improve or did some pushing out to get the water to that. Well, you can see now it's so grown in, and let's continue up then. And now we're coming into the culvert, and you can see how from the culvert on down, this whole ditch system is all grown in. And it doesn't even look like a ditch. And we can go all the way out. We've got some we can see some real green algae build up and stuff that's really held up in there. Here it's open again. Now we're getting to Middle Lake. This is really closed up in there and it coming out in the middle. So I think you can see that there needs to be something done. And I don't know, I said last time, I think in '66 was the last time I can remember that was clean. The only thing is with this, it will probably have to be done in wintertime. And you know, that can be an issue if we get early snow and all the rushes and things of that. But I've been working with the DNR for a number of years. I've had the county out a few times, before Nate even. And there was talk of spraying this, and nothing really ever got done. But now it has to be cleaned. At least that's my feeling on it. And I guess that's about all I can say on that.
Gene, do you know what the difference is in elevations between the two lakes?
Yeah, we did a test last year with Doug Winter. We drilled some holes out there, and coming in the middle, there was about a 3.5 inch difference. When we went all the way down to the end where the outlet is on Middle Lake, there was 11 inches difference to the dike going out of Middle Lake.
It isn't much, is it?
No, it isn't, and I really do feel I don't have that now. That will be something next year that I probably would like to bring forward, that there should be something done with that lake, Middle Lake, as far as Doug Winter did go in with the cookie cutter. Was quite an improvement on flow. In fact, I got some measurements and my dates when I tested it a few different times. And in a matter of a week to 10 days, we dropped 1.5 inches. But the problem is with a cookie cutter, short period of time, the rushes grow back up. So I guess I can bring it forward now. I just feel there has been a couple instances in the state where they have sprayed with like a Roundup. I believe it's rodeo for aquatic. And they do see anywheres from a 2 to a 5 year plus where they spray that, it goes down and kills the roots.
Oh.
And then, but it eventually grows back. So to me, with a helicopter and a 20 or 30 foot boom, that wouldn't be much at all. But, because the problem is, again, when you do it with a cookie cutter, you still got your rushes 10 to 12 inches or below the water. It's still sort of holding the sediment back. When we can go down and do it, I think we'll get a better water flow out to the dike that's down on the end of Middle Lake. But that's something we'll deal with next year, or try it.
Questions for Mr. Dorn while he's up here?
I think his position is what it is. I think we just have to do the housekeeping to clean up the document. Isn't that our ultimate goal here?
Well, get it clean to do that.
Yeah.
And the way I understand with DNR, this may take a little while, but you also have someone that there's some that handles sort of this permitting and things of that nature? Nate had said that.
Nate would know.
That's part of the Houston engineering discussion.
Right. Cause that's the reestablishment issue, isn't it? Okay.
So what's our,
So if there's,
Well,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, if there's no other public comment, I would encourage you to close the public hearing
okay,
and then move on to the reestablishment of the records issue.
okay, we'll close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank
very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you very
We
much.
may be calling when you never know. Yes, Madam County Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, as noted, when Mr. Henry had sought the opinion of the cost of getting a field survey and repair report, there was a recommendation from Chris Otterness, who is an licensed engineer, about the need to reestablish the records to have full information about the depth, et cetera, of the ditch system itself. And so the matter before you today is for you to consider the request to reestablish those records. There is proposed order in your file for consideration. And the process would be that if you order that reestablishment of records, he'll take about 2 months to reestablish those records. Then there is a public hearing to address the reestablishment. There's required notice to a number of entities. That hearing will take place, and then the decision is made about the reestablishment of those records. And then following that reestablishment, then the matter would come back before you to consider the cleaning issue and the request to prepare that field survey and repair report that kind of initiated the need for the reestablishment of the records. And it's critical to reestablish what the system was, or what the records for the system.
More questions for Michelle?
So can we move the findings of fact and order at the same time?
Yes.
Well, I'll make that motion
I'll
unless there's.
second the motion just to proceed here, yeah.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
So then at this point, Mr. Chair, we'll get that information to Mr. Otterness. He'll prepare the report and submit it to the required individuals. I will also be working closely, and/or Kurt Dieters will take over the presentation of this because of the DNR issues and the public water issues and the specialized area of law that comes associated with those projects.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else we should discuss yet?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.